All right, everyone. Sorry about that technical delay. Yeah, Google Hangouts decided to not be as cooperative with us as we would like it to be. Anyway, welcome to Address the Sass, the first episode of 2014.
Yay!
I'm Adam Sessler. That shouldn't. Well, I shouldn't even have to do that. This isn't television. I don't have to do that. But anyway, I'd like to introduce Nick Robinson, special 2014 version of Nick Robinson. Nick, say hello to everyone.
Hey, you completely vanished for a second.
Yeah,
probably because of Google Plus.
There for a second too. Guys, we may be running on duct tape and rubber bands for this, so we'll see how long we can pull it off. But you know, it's been a while since I've done this. I took quite a bit of time off. Did you take time off, Nick?
A little bit, nothing too crazy. Yeah, so just to give people a quick explanation, we are running this from a separate YouTube channel today because we've tried with all the Revision 3 YouTube channels and none of them have worked. We're being required to run it from a separate, non-partnered YouTube channel in order for the Hangout to start.
Yeah, so we don't know. We're in uncharted waters. Mm-hmm. You know? They could be fine waters. They just have friendly fish that want to offer you tea. But they could also be shark-infested and filled with stingrays. So we just don't know what we've gotten ourselves into here. Yep. Back from vacation. I decided to actually be better to my body this year, and I started boxing this morning. It's been a year and a half since I've done that. So if I either seem to have too much energy or I'm falling asleep in front of you, you understand. Also, I may just cry out in pain for no good reason because these arms, well, they hurt. All right, that's enough about me. It's enough about vacations. It's all about games. Before we bring someone in, Nick, are there any interesting comments out there?
There
any of them have to do with hipsterisms or anything like that?
The happy upside of all this is that there were a ton of great questions this week, and we were able to salvage them in our crazy cycle of deleting events and creating events and over and over and over. So let's see here. Scrolling through them now, I just found them.
Yeah, this was definitely this was seat of the pants for about the past 25 minutes.
Yeah, it's a hectic half hour. We're already exhausted. Okay, so here's one that's pretty easy. So what were some of the games, Adam, that you played over the break, and are there any games that you wanted to finish that you started over the break?
The game that I started and finished over the break was Assassin's Creed 4. I started that actually before the break, but I always have found with Assassin's Creed games, I've never reviewed them myself. I find that they always tend to just be that thing I just kind of obsess over a little bit over the holiday season. I've never loved any one particular Assassin's Creed game. I've always liked them, but I just somehow like to do everything, and that's something that really cannot be done in the course of a review. I played that, played The Walking Dead. The one I went back to because I loved it so much, I restarted Rayman Legends, this time with the intention of getting every single teensy. I have yet to do that. Some of that stuff gets so hard at the end, it really is. It's brilliant in its design, but I felt really proud for a bit, like I was proving I still have my reflexes, and then I started to worry about my reflexes. So that was actually the extent of my game playing. I did not play that many games. Funny that. I had played them all, and when I played games, I started to review them in my head, and I got tired. So yes,
that's good. At least I think there's a difference between the type of game you play, like for review, and something like Assassin's Creed or Rayman, which is kind of just a lean back, casual, like
it's expansive. You don't want to be that efficient. Mm-hmm. And I played a little bit of Need for Speed Rivals, went back to Forza, but yeah, those are kind of the two that really kind of ate up a good chunk of my time. So, all right,
cool. Well, we have guests.
Yes, we do. They already made it in. So our ad hoc, hangout address, whatever the hell we want to call it, seems to have worked. Is that Andre there?
Seems like it. We do. We have Andre. Andre, you may have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you. Andre, where are you reaching us from?
I'm down in Orange County in California.
Orange County, the Southern California, where I once used to live. I gather it's been really unseasonably warm up here. I've heard it's been like summer hot down there.
It's like mid-80s, and it's very dry and windy.
Yeah, we're getting some Santa Ana action up here as well. So I know the rest of this country was kind of in terrifyingly freezing conditions, so let's not alienate everyone by talking about our beautiful sunny warm weather and our drought. So we'll get right to the games. Andre, what's on your mind?
Well, I understand that your favorite game is Ghosts and Goblins, and
Yes.
I recently went back and I got it and I tried it out, and I was curious as to why you liked it, and I believe that you originally stated once long ago that it's because you were excited to see what was next.
Yes, exactly. Actually, of that series, that franchise, Ghouls and Ghosts, you'll probably like a lot more. It's playable. Human beings can actually finish it. But the game that really still resonated in my mind, Ghosts and Goblins, I would say it was about the age of 8, maybe 9. There was a handful of cabinets at a bowling alley that was near where I lived in El Cerrito, California, by a BART station. You know what, like when you're 8 or 9, you don't really know how to read your surroundings well. I would go there by myself, and I now regard it as a place that would make someone like Hubert Selby Jr. feel uncomfortable. But when you're that age, you just don't understand that it's kind of scuzzy and dangerous and inappropriate for a child. Anyway, they had Ghosts and Goblins, and I was just transfixed and fascinated by that game. If you really go back to those early, like that era of arcade games, that was one of the first, if not the only, that really showed this kind of precise art direction. Like there was a clear vision. It wasn't just kind of like the human figure that we could somehow get the pixels to generate. And in that regard, every single level just had these kind of wild looks and designs and creatures. And that was really my incentive. I wanted to see what was going to happen next. And despite it having a high score in that, that really seemed to be my driving force. And there would always be a crowd around it to watch one of the guys who were really good at playing it. I wouldn't say that I love it for its game design. It's the most hateful game ever made, other than Super Ghouls and Ghosts. But it really kind of hit on what I think is what I love the most about video games, which is seeing what's around the corner, kind of seeing where the imagination of the designer, of the developer, is going to be taking you. And that's, you know, that's still like the thing that I love the most about video games. So, God, I like that question because I had such a good answer for you.
Thank you.
So what did you think of the game when you played it?
I think it is very archaic in its design. It's very difficult, and unreasonably so. It seems like
and it's
a lot of
completely unfair. I mean, remember, it was an arcade game. It was a quarter sucker.
yeah.
It was
The patterns. It's not like a Mega Man or something more polished that came later from Capcom that had clear patterns that you could eventually overcome. It seemed like there was almost a sort of randomization as it went along.
When you get to the Red Devil, which is really, you know, it's like kind of the sub-boss you encounter 2 or 3 times throughout it, they have about 3 different patterns, but when they show up, there's absolutely no rhyme or reason. Only one of those patterns was really the one where you could beat them. It was just, it was a game of such cruelty that, and I assume you haven't finished it.
Oh, of course not.
No. What happens at the end of the game is the most horrible thing in the history of video games.
I think the statute of limitations is up. You can go ahead and spoil Ghosts and
Okay, you
Goblins.
finally get, you're killing the devil, Satan, something. He's big, red, he kind of looks furry, he's evil. It is so hard to get him. Also, you can only really use that one weapon, the dagger, which is the only official weapon in the entirety of the game. So if you somehow manage to get to the end, and with the dagger you have a shot, I did it. I had the NES cartridge. I'm with my brother. We have been working on this. We've been taking the NES. We've been hiding it from Mom so she doesn't unplug it. Things on pause. We have done it. We beat it. We are celebrating. We are hugging each other. This is the most wonderful thing in the world. And then lo and behold, you get this text on the screen that wasn't the real enemy and that you can't save the princess. You have to go back and start the game all over again. I was about the age of 10, I think at this point, maybe 11. My younger brother, so that would put him closer to 7. This is the moment at which I understood that the adult world doesn't care about you, that you aren't loved, and that no one is going to outstretch their hand and give you help. My brother was too young to understand these important adult issues. He just started weeping. I was just cold, and maybe my brand of cynicism really came out of when I finally completed Ghosts and Goblins. Thank you, Capcom. So, there you go.
Thank you for answering.
Andre, stay there. We'll keep your mic open. Nick, you want to bring someone else in?
Yeah, sure. I found a pretty good question from the chat, if you're interested.
All right, let's go for it.
Sure. So Jessica McLivine asks, do you think that when people say this isn't a game, probably in regards to something like Gone Home. What they mean
What's that
is.
mean about?
So when people say this isn't a game, do you think what they mean is this isn't a game that uses the medium in the way I enjoy, so I don't want to encourage these types of games? Because, it's her words, that's what it feels like to me, and I've definitely been guilty of this in the past. So when people say this isn't a game, do you think that's what they're saying, is that it's not what they want to see games be?
That's kind of the argument that's being put forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I'm not saying this is necessarily that person's viewpoint. I used the term on Twitter back when all this idiotic Gone Home stuff started. I used the term miscegenation, and I did use that very deliberately. What that really is interrelations between different races. It was something that was actually illegal in the United States of America until, like, say in California in the late 40s. It finally was made a law. And I think it went all the way until the 70s when it was the Lovings case that actually finally made this kind of a federal thing. Yeah, that recently, the 70s. It might have been the 60s. So it's that anxiety that something can't be considered something. You see the same argument with gay marriage right now. That it's not marriage because it has to be like this. It's almost that you're losing the credibility of what you think the core definition is when you expand it to encompass other things. I've talked a lot about how I think a lot of the anxiety, be it people who think games are too violent, it always comes down to a matter of language, because it's something that feels unfamiliar, and either you're sharing it or you're locked out of the conversation. In this case, it's the matter of sharing it. I keep on thinking about what I still believe was a bogus story that ran in the 90s when there's all this anxiety about feminism, and there was a group that wanted to rename women WOMYN to get the man out of woman, and this thing got huge press traction because, once again, it was language. It was taking something that we thought was solid, we understood it, and it was changing the definition of it, and everyone gets up in arms. That's what I'm seeing in the "it's not a game." Because it doesn't make any sense, because I know people like to argue that, no, there has to be a challenge. Yeah, if the Oxford English Dictionary says that a game is supposed to have challenge, and I haven't checked the definition lately, that is not the authority. The authority is kind of us creating our own taxonomy by the experiences, and I still don't understand why Gone Home being a game somehow impacts anybody's enjoyment of any other game out there.
You know what it sounds
Yes, this is an argument that can be changed. Yeah, it can be transferred to a social issue.
Totally
Available.
It sounds exactly like the whole traditional marriage argument.
Exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's like, this isn't a traditional game. You're changing the definition of what a traditional game is, and you're somehow devaluing traditional games by changing it.
And there's many people out there that don't like Gone Home. I get it, but to disabuse it of having status, that's an entirely different thing, and that's where I said that this seems to have a deep anxiety in it. I think this idea that I'm accused of being a member of the press that all we care about are these liberal things. Actually, I didn't love Gone Home because it has a certain socially progressive message in it. I loved it because I was scared to death as I was playing it for the 3 hours I did, and the way that it played on your perceptions and then undermined them. But back to that point, it's we in the press, we are playing more games than the average person. It's just something that is novel, something that is different, something that challenges our way of looking at a game is something that we're going to respond to in a positive way. That's the point of where we are. We're supposed to be sort of out there on the vanguard looking for the thing that may be hard for other people to discover. I found the entire thing that came out of Gone Home a little bit distressing and disturbing, but more just kind of puzzling and really just kind of disheartening at the end of the day. It's fine to debate the merits of the game, to debate whether or not we should even be having a discussion on it. That's what the definition of smarm is in that Gawker article.
I think
I'm done.
I think Gone Home just wants to be a video game for tax purposes. So
Yeah.
All right, let's hear from Gonzo right here.
Gonzo, I'm so bummed that you're not blue, but and with a big silly nose.
You might have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing a mute tool on here, but I'll keep poking around. These things are always changing.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay, cool. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, how are you? Where are you reaching us from?
Columbus, Ohio. So, yeah, I did get some of that crappy weather during the polar vortex apocalypse.
Crappy weather is like, oh man, like my birthday party, I can't have it outside. That was polar vortex. That was like, that was the gods just sending me down. So I'm glad to see you made it through. So,
Yeah.
So what's on your mind?
Well, I was kind of thinking about I was noticing all the kind of cross-generational games that came out along with the new systems. And so to me, it seemed like even developers weren't too sold on the idea that we really needed to make this jump to the next console generation. And so I was wondering if, 10, 15 years down the line, if we're going to slowly just see the end of quote-unquote console generations, and maybe it won't be as important for Microsoft and Sony to say come out with consoles around the same time, if they'll just kind of play the cards that they feel are necessary.
I kind of see two different questions with two different answers. On the first one, I don't think any one developer said, oh man, we would love to do 5 different SKUs of this game. In fact, a lot of those current-gen games were not necessarily done by the same developer that did the next-gen version of the game. I think that was really made by the publisher, and it was a financial decision. There were only going to be so many Xbox Ones and PS4s that were going to be sold because of the supply. So at best, 3 million of each? I don't think we even reached that. Maybe no, I think we did actually. I think it was supposed to 4 million for PlayStation 4, around 3 million. So that's 7 million. At best, if you're selling a game and all 7 million get purchased, that's still not great for a AAA game. So they need to be able to use that install base, that massive install base of the Xbox 360 and the PS3 to really see the return on that. I think that it'll be about, I would say by year's end, I doubt we're going to see too many of these, except for maybe the most major franchises. We'll see it for Call of Duty. We'll see it for Destiny. We'll see it for those games. I would say by next year, we're going to be moving past that. Now, to the other question, are we going to see any more consoles? That's a really good question. Microsoft, when they announced the Xbox One, I did an interview with Mr. And I know his last name was Booty, and I feel really bad for forgetting his first name because I'm about to call him Mr. Booty. Kind of a cool name. So he said Microsoft planned for this to be the last console. And then we also have the announcement of PlayStation Now. I think that there will be a point where we're going to see these boxes move from being like the device that's doing the processing to just kind of the set-top box that's accessing the cloud. I don't know how soon we're going to see that kind of streaming gaming where we're going to get the same kind of quality without latency that that we have from our consoles. But that is definitely the goal, and that we will at some point maybe even throw away our consoles. As Sony said, they're going to try to integrate PlayStation Now on the Bravia TVs, so you have no set-top box; it's coming through the TV. It's I know that's the goals for all the major because it's stupid to sell hardware. People don't want to buy hardware; they want to buy services. And we're finally going to see that change of the generation. Whether that's going to come quickly and come effectively, that's a whole different ball of wax, and I don't know when that's going to happen.
Okay. Here's a really specific concern about that streaming game thing that what you said just made me think of. There was an article on Edge Online probably years ago about how HD TVs have kind of killed rhythm games as we know them. Like how Parappa the Rappa had such specific timing windows that were almost impossible, and with the HD lag of TVs, those games just can't exist and can't be as strict as they used to be. We're just now getting past that, right? Like we're just now getting to the point where HD TVs have really low latency. As someone who loves rhythm games more than probably any other genre, it scares the hell out of me, the idea that there's this new latency that's going to be introduced that'll be
that's an interesting
We're getting mushier and softer with our reaction times in games and that kind of thing.
I just discovered the game mode setting on my television. I didn't know it's like the most squirreled away setting that on a bad day when I was bored and I was checking out my TV settings, I discovered it. I'm lying. It was when I was setting up the console. Anyway, Gonzo, you were saying.
So a quick question just to add on to that. So where do you think the role of the, I guess, PC gaming then? If we're seeing this, if you think we're going to see this sort of dissolving of the console hardware unit, what role will, I guess, the desktop play in this future for gaming?
That's a really good question, because I still think PC gaming is fundamentally different than console gaming. I don't do Valve Big Picture mode, Steam Big Picture mode. I play my PC games in my PC. I like to be hunched over. I like to call them fiddling games. I'll play a really deep RPG because I want to sit there and fiddle with the damn outfit and all that stuff. And when I'm playing like Assassin's Creed, I'm sitting back because it's more kind of like the motions of playing it. That will probably it will probably exist to some sense, but I would have to think that Valve is not unaware that coming up with a streaming service and one that could be integrated into a television, that could be sort of a service like a Netflix or a Hulu or something like that, is a very important and viable path that they would have to take. Yes, they're still selling the Steam boxes now. You know, this could be kind of one of those last hurrahs for that desire to have like that big rig. I'm going to miss it, but you know, there just there's just kind of that reality. You know, there are people who buy vinyl, and so there are people who play PC games. I do not think that that's. You will be talking to people like me. I am talking to you, and they will be as quizzical about the idea you had a really big PC in your room to play video games.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Actually, can I interject?
Yeah, by all means.
Apparently, within the last 24 hours, 2 pieces of news came out. One is that I think it was announced today that Steam, as of now, has 75 million active users. God. So there is clearly a rising want for their service. Also, I just Google searched it while you said it, Adam. Apparently, Phil Spencer went on record within the last 24 hours as saying there will be another Xbox. And hardware desire will not die within 20 years.
That crossed my attention, and I thought it was a joke. He really did say that.
Yes.
Oh, the guy's name is Matt Booty, so we don't call him Mr. Booty from now on. Really? I mean, why would you say that? I'm going to have to go back and check it. So, guys, I'm kind of talking off the hook. It's one of those things where it was always a concern for both Sony and Microsoft. They didn't want to announce the new console too early, because the minute you say that, people are going to stop buying 360s. So you need to kind of find that sweet spot. We're 2 months into the launch. Don't start talking about the next thing, okay? We haven't even seen what this damn game is from Black Tusk Studios. You know, you would think after some of the stuff that happened right after the launch, they would kind of get their ducks in a row. Once again, I'll go read the quote and put it in a better context. That shouldn't. Maybe it'll be more. Hopefully, he's thinking of something like a Roku box. But that's unfortunate. So thank you for bringing that up, Andre. So yeah, there might be a new console because people like big clunky things sitting under their TV. Yeah, wait till you get married. You ain't gonna like him anymore. Hey, should we bring in our new guy there, Nick?
Yeah, sure. Let me see if it'll. Oh, he unmuted himself. How? This is Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Hi. Thanks again, Adam. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Thank you for coming in under some rather onerous circumstances.
Twitter.
Where are you reaching us from?
Actually, ironically, I laughed when the first one guy came on. Orange County, California.
Orange County. So yeah, you're in a teacher too. I'm noticing this trend from all the West Coast.
I got up and turned my air on, to be honest with you.
That is crazy. I mean, I lived in LA when there were some really warm winters, but January '85, I mean, just so the rest of the country knows, yeah, it sounds really awesome. We haven't had rain in so long. Like, we're all going to start starving. Unless something happens really soon.
Everyone keeps saying, oh, my God, I'm so glad it's so warm, but then we all go, but we really need rain.
We're at 20% of what we need in our snowpack for enough water for the state of California. So.
Well, good old Colorado.
But you know what? Yeah, there's no global warming. It's only 122 degrees in Australia right now. Anyway, Chris, what can I address for you to invoke the name of the show?
Well, I was going to ask a question about like the new Steam box and stuff, and I think there's some interesting stuff about the fact that Steam machines would be able to actually stream games from your PC. I don't know if you guys noticed that. So if you have a Steam machine in your living room, you could actually stream it from your PC. I thought that was interesting, but since we already touched on that, I figured. I was really curious to hear about like the Oculus Rift. They just announced the new, Crystal Cove, I think it was called, at CES. And now that they have like a proper screen and stuff, people are basically just saying, well, virtual reality is moving past, the actual screen resolution, and now we're just dealing with still being on a keyboard and mouse. Do you really think that even if we could figure out a way to move past the keyboard and mouse, or a controller for that matter, that we could still have virtual reality becoming like something that happens in your house every single day instead of just looking at a screen?
It's possible. I don't think Oculus Rift are going to be the guys to do it unless they get bought by Microsoft. I've said this, and I'm very impressed with Oculus Rift. I still think that it is such a sensory deprivation chamber that there are actually insurance issues that I just don't. You start selling it to people, you can tell them until you're blue in the face, sit down when you do this, move the coffee table. That's not going to necessarily keep you protected when some jackass like breaks their neck, because when I've had it on, I can get very discombobulated, and I think it's going to happen to a lot of people. We also have Sony, which I am dead certain has one of these devices that might kind of have a better sense of what that true kind of broad-based consumer entry is going to be. I think, to your point, like instead of the keyboard and mouse interface or the controller interface, that with PlayStation Eye or with Kinect, that's where you start to see some real potential with virtual reality. I think it's, I was in college when Timothy Leary was still alive, and he was just extolling the virtues of virtual reality. This was like the great future. And I think as a result, I still associate virtual reality with acid and other psychedelics. And so it kind of has that ephemeral quality to it. I think there's going to be some incredible games that can be designed for it. I think we're going to, for those of you that are worried about games broadening and what they encompass, you're going to see an incredible popular, like you're going to have just exploration games. Like I'm under the water, I'm exploring stuff. There's, we're really going to see some neat stuff coming from that. I don't think it's ever going to replace the more kind of straight up tactile, that sense of rhythm and doing that. I think it's going to be a fun thing to add on to it. I just, I might be completely wrong. I hope if you interview the Oculus Rift guys again, because I wish them all the best. But there is just that, there really is that safety factor. When the original kind of virtual reality games were made available, there were these really stupid ones where you shot pterodactyls. There was a guy who was spotting you, and you were in kind of a circular cage so you didn't fall over. That back then was what people felt that was necessary if you could give the public access to them. So
more games like The Forest that has been announced, which is like an alpha right now, because that's more of like an exploration kind of game, even if it is horror. Okay.
Or I mean, look,
that would probably work best, I think.
Or even like Slender Man. It's just it's like you. I mean, that's a little bit too unpleasant if you really think about it. But,
Patrick
will figure out how to have action games, but I think that if you've really convinced the player that you had that sense of you're in this place, do you really have to shoot things? I mean, it could open up other interesting avenues for game design, and of course, most people won't consider a game.
Patrick over at Giant Bomb has been doing those live streams of him. I think it's called Spookin' with Scoops, where he just puts on an Oculus Rift, and he's like got a huge slate of horror games that he's done with the Oculus Rift, from like Amnesia to Slender, just like everything you can imagine. And I don't know that I could take that. Like I don't know about you, but I couldn't do it.
I don't use 5.1 sound because when I had it, I was playing Resident Evil 4 and I threw my back out and I had to go on like steroids to fix my back. So it's like, I'm not the biggest fan of like, I don't need everything. I kind of want to know what's pretend sometimes, especially in a horror setting.
Yeah.
Hey, let's see if we can grab someone else in.
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead and talk to Johan.
Johan.
Hello.
Unmute yourself. There we go. Yes.
Hey, we can hear you. What's up? Oh.
Yeah, we can hear you, Nick. Okay, we still can't hear you.
Let me see if I can magically... No, it says he's unmuted. Very strange. I'm going to click this button a bunch of times.
And you have a voice there, Johan, correct?
I could have sworn I heard him for a second. Maybe I imagined it. You know what we're going to do? We're going to leave him here and leave him on.
There we go.
There we go. Hi, Joe.
Gotcha.
Hey.
Congratulations. Nice. Where are you reaching us from?
Huskvarna, Jönköping in Sweden.
Oh, nice. I assume it is not 85 degrees.
It's 12 degrees.
And is that Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit. I helped you there.
All right.
Thanks for the conversion.
Well, at the very least, it's a good setting to want to play a video game or stay indoors and talk to strangers in a Google Hangout setting.
2 in the night.
How are you? So what are you playing out there?
Right now, some DayZ and Counter-Strike Go.
Are you enjoying it? And you said DayZ, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and are you enjoying it?
Yeah, very much. I have 50 hours.
Okay, yeah, that would be an indication of enjoyment or masochism if you didn't like it. So, what's on your mind?
Telltale, actually, as Wolf Among Us is releasing February. episode in gaming.
That's chapter 2 of Wolf Among Us.
Yeah, 3 months ago, right? Chapter 1.
2 or 3?
Oh, yeah.
You might be right on 3, actually.
And it's take too long.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, I really, really enjoyed chapter 1.
Same
and
here.
Like, okay. And, Telltale has their own special way of doing things. I'm not aware. I don't know what their sales are, but it must be something that they're comfortable with. That that they're not losing interest in people, and that they feel that they can give it the time to polish it. I mean, I honestly, this is one of those instances where I really do believe it's got to be because they just want to get it right. Because there's no good reason. There's just no good reason to withhold it if it's available to be put out there. But yeah, it really is. I like it better than Walking Dead. And I think it's because with both Walking Dead Season 1 and what we've just played with the first chapter of Season 2, the characters that you're playing in Walking Dead, you get the impression that they are supposed to be good, nice people. And so even though you're given that option of how to interact with people, it just seems wrong to be mean. Whereas in Wolf Among Us, when you play Big Bad Wolf, he's not a nice guy from the get-go, and you can kind of move around being pleasant and unpleasant.
Like, he can go and be a bad wolf or be good in that sense. You have the power in you.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it's inconsistent with the story or the way the character's being presented. Also, I think there are times, and once again, I'm playing Walking Dead, it's almost too grim for me. Like, there's just that point where I'm like, God, okay, sure, yeah, let's hang out in the apocalypse. Yay, everybody. Oh, look, it's miserable. Little girl's under threat from everything. And it just starts to just weigh on you. Whereas, I like the noirish aspect of Wolf Among Us. It feels a little bit more free and fun, and I definitely play a more varied character in that one.
As good as Walking Dead is, as great as Walking Dead is, that setting is just so played out to the point that, like, even if I love Walking Dead, and I do, when I'm given the choice between that and this beautiful neon 80s cel-shaded noir New York with, like, fantasy, like children's fantasy elements, like I'm kind of going to pick that every time. It's just
and you don't know what's going to come in Wolf Among Us, whereas like in Walking Dead, you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but it's like, I'm going to make a decision that's going to cause someone to die. It's got to happen at some point in the course of this. That's what keeps on happening.
Can I interject 1 second?
Yeah, by all means.
Just in defense of the episodic nature of the these games, I do think there's a different way I experience something if it's piece by piece and there's an extended amount of time in between each. Mm-hmm. Like, I know when the latest season of Arrested Development came out and it was just all there, I just
tried to watch it back to back.
Yeah, I watched it back to back, and like I don't think I enjoyed it by the end of it because I was just so exhausted.
I stopped laughing.
Yeah,
right.
And I noticed that my friends who had an ungodly amount of self-control who decided to break up the watching kind of enjoyed it a little better, and so I think
you're right.
Some merit to the idea of having this time in between where you can kind of sit and reflect on that small little chunk.
And if anyone made the horrible mistake of playing those Walking Dead games back to back,
you can't live through that experience. I don't think the people who did that are alive.
Can I make a suggestion?
Uh-huh.
The antithesis to the Walking Dead game was also ironically created by Telltale. It's the Jurassic Park game. I remembered when it came out, it was released to just mediocre critical acclaim. And my friend, who is a giant dinosaur buff, brought it over and implored me to play it.
Is a giant dinosaur? I'm sorry.
He's a giant buff dinosaur. He has huge muscles. And
he just loves dinosaurs. He's one of those, big Tonka trucks and dinosaurs. He's a little kid at heart. And we played it, and if you want the exact opposite experience, Adam, because I know sometimes when you play more harrowing or depressing games, it affects you. If you want the exact opposite, play that game and deliberately fail every sequence that allows you to fail. Okay. It is a great drunk party game. It gets increasingly preposterous. I mean, it goes to Three Stooges level of complete ridiculousness of these death animations. It's incredible.
Okay, you know what? That might even be something I'll try out with Anthony on the live stream. I love this idea.
Yeah, have Telltale on and then play Jurassic Park. That's a great video.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Believe me, it's the most entertaining gaming experience I've ever had in my life, bar none. It's that funny.
Okay, good. That is a strong endorsement. Hey, Nick, do you want to grab one more question from the chat?
Yeah. In the meantime, let's go ahead and let John in, and I'll pick out another good one.
John.
Hi, John.
Unmute yourself, John.
Unmute yourself. His roommates are wondering who he's talking to.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I just want to start off. This is gonna beat me sounding all sappy, but I'm a big fan of yours, Adam. Sorry, words are hard. My first exposure to game reviews was watching X Play when I was, I think, 12 years old. But
how old are you now? Now, just humor me so I know how much older I am from when you started watching.
I'm a tender youngin' at the age of 18.
I assume you're in college. Are you not in college? I see a periodic table, real or not. That's
a
behind.
Watch Dogs poster.
Yeah, that's my roommate's half of the room.
Got it. Okay, you're in college, so yes.
Yep.
Hello,
that's my friend Les. He's a friend. He's a fan of yours too. But anyways, go. But yeah, anyways,
very kind.
anyways, going on to my question. Over the break, I was trying to play Assassin's Creed 4. I used the word try because this was, because this is a game that I know has gotten a lot of critical acclaim and by all means should be fantastic, but it's just one that I haven't been able to bring myself to enjoy. Has there ever been a situation where you've had one of those games that's just received phenomenal reviews and phenomenal reception across the board that you just couldn't get into?
Yes, and give me a second to come up with one, but I actually agree with you on Assassin's Creed. I love the boat combat. And I really had fun with that, but the minute you kind of got on land, it was just Assassin's Creed. It just didn't have any kind of spark for me. So I completely get where you're coming from. I'm curious, what system did you play it on?
I played it on my PlayStation 4, but my big problem with the game wasn't...
This is what I did too, yeah.
But my big problem with the game wasn't necessarily the mechanics. They were just as solid as ever. It's, like you said, it's Assassin's Creed. But that the game itself was way too easy for me to stay engaged.
Which is also true of Assassin's Creed 3. And this is an interesting point. A game I can't identify. I saw something today. And it also highlighted what seems to be kind of a problem with a lot of open world games, and in particular Ubisoft open world games, where that whole, like, you can play it how you want to. That sounds good, but sometimes that means that everything is brought down to such kind of a base level so that, you know, you can do it with stealth, you can do it with something else, that it just kind of negates the sense of challenge. The fact is, I could buy the best sword in Assassin's Creed 4 very quickly, and you don't have those incentives. I'm hoping that they really start to play with maybe a skill tree, something that kind of wants me to stay engaged with it. Like side quests don't seem to really flood back in and make you feel like you're really helping that main quest. Excuse me, except for, say, upgrading your boat. I definitely see where you're coming from. Let's see, a game that was really, really big that everyone else loved that I just couldn't get into.
BioShock Infinite.
Yeah, but I really like BioShock Infinite. I
actually bought it because
yeah, I don't think I'm even allowed to say one. Yeah, I'm not allowed to say Dark Souls, right? Because I'm because that means that Reddit comes crawling up my ass, doesn't it? That one. It's like, you know, it's like screwing a squirrel. You do it for the story, not for the experience. I have examples of that, but I can only think of games from the past couple of years, and I'm going to have to get back to you on that. But yeah, it is, you know what, there are those moments where I'm like, oh God, you know, I see my reviews gone up, and I see that, oh look, I'm completely out of step. Okay, you know what, I'll give you one example. And this isn't perfect to your question. When I didn't like Uncharted 3, and a lot of other reviewers said it was really incredible, and suddenly I was like the most hated person on the internet, you know, time 100 for that instance. And yeah, I would say that's one of the closest ones. Nick, have we lost you?
Nope, I'm here. I think.
There you are, Nick. Yeah,
Am I
it
here?
looks like some of my the windows are frozen up in front of me.
Yeah, there's a lot of shenanigans happening in here. For me, I think it would probably be GTA 4 and pretty much any GTA before 5.
Yeah.
I never really loved a GTA my whole life, and GTA 5 is the one where I think at the very least it played well. It wasn't like the other GTAs I thought were kind of like jack of all trades, masters of none. Like the shooting wasn't fun, the driving wasn't fun.
Yeah.
5 fixed at least that problem for me.
I mean, I think definitely that first generation GTAs, that like just the controls, like it was so hard for me to access it. Oh yeah. I'm sorry. You know, I didn't review them, so I can't that. Metal Gear Solid.
Ooh.
I just know.
Wow.
No. It's just no.
Dang.
I mean, somebody actually asked me on Twitter last night if I regret giving Metal Gear Solid 3 a 4 out of 5. I didn't review it. It's probably my voice. I regret giving it a 4 out of 3. And I'm talking about the first one. Snake Eater definitely improved that, but like there are certain passes given to Kojima that I sit there and just go like, really? That's okay? Oh my god! I wish I could write a story that poorly.
There's a really great screenshot from his English language Twitter account that's like him with a plate of Eggs Benedict, and the tweet that he wrote was, "It looks like boobies when you shake the plate, LOL." And I'm just like sitting there sometimes looking, like I go back and look at that tweet sometimes, and I'm like, this dude is like one of the luminaries of our industry. Like I love him to death. I can't follow you down that road. I think MGS2 is like one of my favorite games ever.
Oh my god, 2 of all of them.
I know.
With the vampire.
So good.
And I'm gonna walk into a room for 10 more minutes of cutscene that makes no sense.
I've devised a theory this past week that I have not said out loud yet because it's one of the worst sentences I've ever thought. But I think the only good Metal Gear games are the ones that star Raiden. That's my new theory that I'm putting forth. To just.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I know. It's not all right.
Are we sure that Metal Gear Solid 5 isn't just going to be one giant cutscene?
Maybe you get it and it's just a Blu-ray.
Now it's like there's tons of cutscenes, but I just think that like he's laughing at all of us. He's going, "Oh my God, they bought it and they think I'm saying something." It's kind of like when John Lennon was writing late era Beatles songs. He's like, "Sure, whatever. Sure, let's see what they think of this one." It's like, Joyce, upon writing Ulysses, like, I'm going to keep busy for 100 years. And I don't buy it. I know I'm a heretic for saying that. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid. There we go.
That's funny. Metal Gear Solid is one of my all-time favorite franchises.
I knew you were saying that. Whenever I get into a Metal Gear Solid discussion and I'm honest, I always am talking to a guy who loves it. I'm not telling you to love it. It's an apples and oranges thing. I'm like, God.
It's totally fine. I was just about to say, I beat 4, maybe 6 or 7 times. That's how much I love that game.
Oh my!
And I cannot disagree with anything you just said. It is all true.
Did you watch all the cutscenes at one time, or did you skip them?
No, I was going after those achievements, man. I had to get that boss mask. Like, I just spent a whole summer, headband, sitting there, beating that game in a whole day, just running through. I think my best time on it was maybe 2 hours and 45 minutes, just sprinting, ignoring everything. And, oh, God. That game, I love it, but it's a shit show.
Okay, the thing is, the part that I think just really epitomized, like, where I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's all the sequences are happening up on the airplane with Sonny and the eggs frying, and like the really uncomfortable silences, because that was suddenly, it was like Harold Pinter's Metal Gear Solid 4, where suddenly all the meaning and the sense of threats happening in the quiet moments, and it was just, I'm like, what? It's like, I don't even know if this is on purpose.
It's called art, Adam.
The brilliance of Kojima. It's like, I can't tell if it's on purpose. Or if it's just like, oops, some weird got into my game. I'll keep it there.
So Metal Gear Solid is why we can't call things art, or video games artwork.
No, see, I think Metal Gear Solid makes the case that you can, because it is probably the most curious piece of pop art that's out there.
It's like Picasso for video games.
You know what? It's the Jeff Koons of video games. That's what it is. No, it's a Cicciolina airbrush painting that sells for $10 million, or a ceramic Michael Jackson with bubbles sculpture, and we can't decide what it is. That's what it is. He's the Jeff Koons of video game designers.
John, just real quick, what are your roommates playing behind you? Is it League or something?
They're watching the league tourney thing. I don't know. Esports aren't my cup of tea.
That's fine.
Esports.
No, that's just it's quite all right. Quite all right. Nick, should we throw get one more person in here?
Yeah, here's Aaron.
Hello there. How's it going?
Doing well. And I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Aaron.
Aaron. There you are, Aaron. Where are you hailing from?
I'm actually coming from San Francisco.
San Francisco. Wow. Yeah. West Coast represent.
I know, right? It's crazy.
Where were we? I thought it was San Francisco. It's like, we're probably close enough to one another here that this is just awkward. But
hey, if you want me to come down to the studio, I'd be more than happy to.
You know, I want you to think that I work somewhere really nice, so you just stay right there.
Okay. You know, I was actually up in D.C. during that polar vortex thing, and it was awful there. So this is wonderful.
Good, good. Are you going to school here, or are you just living here?
Yeah, I'm a graduate student at San Francisco State.
Oh, cool! Congratulations on that. So. What San Francisco-oriented video game inquiry can you present to me today?
Let's just tie it all in. So actually, I'm a graduate student. I teach classes, so trying to figure out how to teach people things is something that I think a lot about. I teach astrophysics, so this broad sense of the universe tends to get lost on people. So I see a lot of things going on now with gamification and trying to work game ideas into different fields in the world. And so this has been tried in education in the past.
Yeah.
You know, so like things like number munchers.
Incentivize a bunch of undergrads to better understand the idea of space
exactly.
and endless continuum with a badging process, correct?
So, you know, that's a thought, but I think that's a little bit superficial. So I'm trying to figure out a way to better do this. And I see a lot of this gamification stuff taking off, and it's getting better and better and more refined. So do you think we're going to get to a point where this is actually a well-oiled process and we can get it right? Because I've talked about this with other people in the past, like if you want to use number munchers as the example, you're trying to teach kids math through some sort of a game, but you're actually having the learning there is sort of the barrier, and there's this disconnect. It's like, yeah, it's a game, and yeah, there's learning, but these things aren't together. Do you think that we're going to master these techniques to actually have someone get it right at some point?
I think, you know, because the idea of astrophysics, that sounds like a challenging one, though I'm happy to entertain a discussion with you on this.
Okay.
But let's deal with more early education, you know, early arithmetic, early subtraction, stuff like that. I don't know if the idea of using video, because I think that sometimes we start to assume that if we say gamification, it has to be a video game, that you can take game concepts, add that into kind of the encouragement of sort of learning, you know, your times tables or anything like that. I think that's more effective. And look, I'm not an educator. You know, it once crossed my mind. So I don't know kind of those psychological things, sociological things you need to deal with kids. I do wonder when you place the screen in front of it and you have the kind of the semiology of a video game, I don't know how much you're tricking them into learning something and how much they're kind of sidestepping the learning process to get to the game thing. Because I just don't know if the design of the games are that sophisticated. Whereas, I was actually, this is going to sound weird, I was hanging out with a 7 and a 6-year-old about a week ago. It was my dear friend and his kids, and we were all having pizza and dinner. And I asked one of them to actually do some of their more complex addition in front of me because I wanted to see how they did it. It was unlike any way I ever did it as a kid. Mm-hmm. And it really was neat where it's really kind of honed in on letting the kids understand that, you have two different numbers and they're part of a larger number. That's part of a whole. It's not how I was taught, where there was just like this plus this equals this. You don't realize that they're all kind of interrelated on an arithmetic spectrum. And he seemed to really get that. And then I tested him on some like random multiplication, and he could do it because he was already thinking in that aggregate way of how numbers go together. Something clearly inspired something in them. And it looked like that they're using charts and stuff that have kind of more of a game logic rather than a pedantic, like you must know this logic. And that's a really effective way, rather than going straight for the game part of it. I still think the gamification it's fun to collect things. It's fun to have short-term goals, and that's what the game, like you make the game for yourself. Like, like the Nike Fuel. It's like I really want to earn. I want to burn this many calories by this point. You set those small goals, and that really just becomes the simple game in and of itself.
No, so it's a great motivator, and I think that's why people are doing it, because games have kind of tapped into this thing just by nature of their getting you to play the game.
Yeah.
They figured out these great motivational tools. So have you ever heard of Cookie Clicker before? Have you encountered that?
This sounds very familiar.
Okay.
Is this the Candy Crush? We're just gonna crack you out so crazy that you're gonna give us everything?
Sort of. I see some smiles in the groups here, so maybe someone else has played it. So the idea is this. There's a large cookie, and every time you click it, you get a cookie. And you then use those cookies to buy things like pointers that will click the cookie for you, or grandmas that will bake you cookies. And it just goes on and on and on, and it's an entirely worthless game. Nothing comes of it, nothing
just
happens.
daisy chaining, virtual.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's satirical, right?
Yeah, but when I played it, like, if you go and just open up the web page, you're like, what the hell is this? And you click it, and then it's like, achievement unlocked, click to cookie. Then you click 5 more, and you're like, achievement unlocked. And then you buy the clickers, and then there's a little thing that comes up, and it clicks for you. And it's just suddenly like, oh, this is actually really fun. I get it. But there's no reason to do it. And the amount of dedication and effort that I've seen people go into it, if you go into their forums, there are actually long derivations of what the most efficient route for clicking cookies is. Should I get 5 pointers and then get a grandma and then buy this upgrade? Or should I just keep constantly clicking until I can buy a factory to make cookies? And there is high-level math going into this for no reason that should exist. And if you could get that sort of motivation to teach someone something, you would just change the world.
I see what you mean. You kind of have a pointless goal, but suddenly you have this really kind of high-level thinking happening about how you get there. I'm just scared that when you describe something like that to me, I'm like, okay, the aliens are going to land, 40 years from now? And they're just going to find a society of people that are just running around, slapping each other on the ass and giving a thumbs up and just running on ahead. And it's just terrifying to me.
Well, see, this is why everyone needs to know astrophysics so we can be prepared for when the aliens come. So this is the work that I'm doing.
Good point. Yeah, it's. With the when you're saying you're teaching astrophysics, you're teaching more like the physics of what are happening in a zero gravity situation.
So what I'm actually teaching is just like basic astronomy 101. Like, here's the planets. Here's how the moon changes phases. This is what you can see through a telescope. So even these simple concepts are really difficult to grasp for a lot of people. Even just thinking about the scales that are going on. Like, how big is Earth? How big is the sun? And that's why I think video games are a really good vantage point to try and integrate that.
Well, you also have a way to try to give a physical representation. I was going to El Cerrito High School across the bay. I mean, we were the Richmond Unified School District back then, and the entire state of California under Pete Wilson decided to take a shit on the entire district. And our physics and chemistry classes, we didn't have much lab. Do you know how hard it is to understand chemistry when you don't see the goddamn chemical reaction? Yeah. It's very, very hard. And I think there's just probably something there because you are dealing with concepts that from human experience you can't be assumed to be able to imagine. I want to mull this one over. I want you to come back and join us.
All right.
It's really, really interesting.
Hey, maybe I'll come down. Where are you guys, on the east side of the bay?
We're down to the dog patch.
I'll come find you one day.
Yeah, you have to peel back like 2 different layers of garbage, and you see me there in kind of a small hovel. I just smell for the elderberries. That's how you'll find me.
Marvel Space Program is a good physics game.
Yeah, no, and things like that. Like there's Kerbal Space Program and there's Universal Sandbox that I think does a really good job of getting people's feet wet, getting sort of a feeling like if you're playing Kerbal and you have to figure out what sort of things do I need to do to launch to this moon, you get a sense for it, but there's a lot of the underlying physics that's hidden there. So I'm wondering if we can get to a point where someone actually knows, like, this is the equation for a rocket launch.
Okay, okay, let's just say that you were able to have a game system, a virtual system that did the proper simulation of the physics, and then you kind of set up like, okay, you have I'm throwing this out there. It's been a while since I took an Earth and space science class, but like, okay, if you're going to try to hit a golf ball, or like you have some kind of game goal, like Wii Sports Space Play is kind of where my brain's going right now. You would have to have some grasp of how those physics are going to work to be able to accomplish that goal. Throwing it out there. If it works, I take credit for it. You pay me a royalty.
So if there's a game designer interested that's watching, they can jump in. I don't have a whole lot of free time on my hands. I'd love to make it, but my skills are limited.
All right.
Say, look at games like High Man's Sky that are coming out. I mean, that might have something along with it because they kind of inform people about like the different things on like the planet, and so maybe people can learn to interact with that. I think it's High Man's Sky.
Yeah, or just the various do the same thing on the simulations of various different planets because trying to take a dump on Jupiter is gonna be a lot different than Mars. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
That's another thing I've thought about playing games is games give you an environment to do whatever you want. So why don't we have games that have more freedom? Like, how many times I've played a first-person shooter and I've been like, why do I just have to jump 3 feet? Why can't I jump 80 feet?
Because
I know
the poor game designer and QA testers would have a heart attack. I mean, I think every single game designer out there would love to put more freedom in the game, but
Gary's mod.
More freedom, more problems. Really, I mean, you're hearing this now from people just trying to work on next-gen games, that it's kind of like you bought a bigger warehouse, now you have to fill it up, but you still have kind of like the same 2 hands to do it with. It really is kind of one of those conundrums, and that's why you're going to get, and to be honest, some games that tell the best story or have some of the most refined aspects to it, like The Last of Us, are the most linear. Whereas the games that offer the most freedom, like the Skyrims and the Fallouts, they're great for a whole other reason, but they don't. The lasting impression is very personal to you, and not one that you can share as easily with someone else because you played it so absolutely differently. And speaking of absolutely differently, I'm going to have to shut down this belated episode of Address the Sess. Everyone say thank you to Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. You were
difficulties. We're going to see when we can do the next one. If we can pull one off for next week, we're going to give it a shot. I have to go back and check my schedule. Sorry about all the technical difficulties. Thank you very much to everyone who joined. This is a really fun discussion.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you. To my love of Metal Gear Solid, and I finally got to gripe and bitch and moan about the Gone Home thing for like the 3rd time this week. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys. We're going to do it again soon. Thank you all.
Bye.